I'm Dave Myers. I'm the director of the Berks Alliance, which is a collaboration of the anchor institutions here in Berks County, the health systems, the colleges, universities, and a number of the large employers. We've been doing these community forums and spotlight programs for a number of years, trying to highlight things of significance and importance to the community. So we welcome you to do that on behalf of the Berks Alliance. I would normally turn this over to John Weidenhammer, who's the chair of the Berks Alliance, but John's not able to join us today. So you're getting stuck with me doing everything on that part. We do have some basic ground rules that we ask people to adhere to. We will be recording it. We will share a copy of that recording with everybody who registered. We do have some people who registered but aren't able to join us. So they get a copy of it. We also post it on the Berks Alliance website, and we share it with our good friends at BCTV. So it gets fairly widely distributed. We ask you to keep your camera on if possible, so we can see we're dealing with real live people. It's always good to see live people, even if it's not in person. But to mute your microphone so we don't have some background noise that could interfere. We ask you to use the chat function at the bottom of the screen to submit questions and comments. We'll get to those questions and comments at the end of the program after the formal presentation. We'll share those with our presenters and have them respond. If we don't get to all the questions and comments, we will share them in writing with our speakers and ask them to reply and send that back. If it's okay with our presenters, with Caitlin, we will send a copy of the PowerPoint along with the video to everyone.
Yep, that's fine.
And so you can enjoy that as well. So with that, it's my pleasure. I'm going to turn it over to Caitlin Long. And Caitlin, I'll let you introduce your cohort, your friend there next to me.
Okay, you got it.
Caitlin is
right.
Go ahead, just start.
Nope. All right, hi everybody, I'm Caitlin Long. I'm the Director of Technology Transfer and Innovation Commercialization at Alvernia's Opaque Institute for Economic Development and Entrepreneurship. And I'm serving as the Managing Director of what you're going to learn about today, which is the Berks Biomedical Innovation Collaborative. And I'm presenting alongside my colleague and boss, Dr. Rodney Ridley. And Rodney, would you like to introduce yourself?
Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Rodney Ridley. I'm the Vice President for Research, Economic Development, and Innovation at Alvernia University. I'm also oversee the Opaque Institute at Alvernia University as well.
All right. So I'm going to pull up our slides here. And we'll get started. All right, is everyone able to see that?
That's good.
Yes, okay. All right, so what is the Berks Biomedical Innovation Collaborative, or otherwise known as the BIC? We see ourselves as a catalyst. We really want to ignite the fire around life sciences in Berks and reimagine what that could look like. So we see ourselves as a visionary group of those anchor institutions, as Dave had mentioned, higher ed, medical institutions, different life science startup companies, venture investors, consultants, that we're all coming together to support regional innovation and commercialization of prospects in this area. So where did this start? So actually it was born out of COVID. One of the positives of that was that more and more of us started to work together. And Tower Health, the director of clinical trials, clinical research at the time, had approached Dr. Ridley and said, hey, we have these doctors here coming up with some really interesting ideas around how to combat COVID. But how do we get these inventions out? Can we work together? He knew that Rodney had technology transfer experience, and they combined heads. And before we knew it, it started to expand to other industry partners, other hospital systems, our College of Medicine with Drexel just down the road from us, and Ben Franklin was one of the inaugural partners as well. So we started meeting on a regular basis to discuss, how do we continue to advance innovation in the region? And lo and behold, now in 2024, you can see almost 23 partners and counting who are all working together to enhance life sciences in Berks County and beyond. So we have consultants, our industry partners, higher education, early stage investment partners, you name it, all the healthcare systems have been involved. So it's really been exciting to see the momentum that this group has been able to catch onto and really work together, which is not always seen when you have competitive organizations in one county like Berks. So what is the purpose of BIC? We talked a little bit about our mission, but really we want to showcase all the amazing things that are happening right here in our backyard that people may not even realize is happening. Who knew that Berks could be a hub for biomedicine? We have all the right pieces, so we decided let's put them all together. So we have figured out different ways to help highlight, promote, attract, and empower different companies in life sciences to come together. So our core initiatives, there are 3 listed here. So number 1 is around incubation and acceleration of new technologies in the life sciences. Our second major initiative is figuring out how do we connect these innovations to the great industry partners that are here in Berks County. We all know that there's a strong manufacturing stronghold here in Berks, and we have some great biomedical partners such as Teleflex and Adhesion who've been helping us to get this off the ground. So how do we connect the innovation to those industry partners? And number 3 is around health equity. Living in Berks County, we want to see that our innovations are also conscious of health disparities and not ignoring that, and seeing how we can help to bridge those gaps. So some success stories from the collaborative. One of my most fond memories of the collaborative was when we started to work together on a National Science Foundation grant opportunity. And that was really the first time where we started meeting on a regular basis to really come together and figure out what are our strengths, where are the weaknesses, and where can we really, where are those opportunities that we can capitalize on. With that, we started to garner attention from all of these major organizations at the local, regional, and even federal level. So you can see some of those names there, especially DCED, very supportive, Life Science Greenhouse, the PA Angel, Investor Network. So we were just blown away by the amount of support at different levels. With the startup culture in Berks County, we were actually able to advise over 50 life science companies since inception, which is pretty remarkable for a smaller region like us. We've actually been able to help advise around patents, licensing, and other commercialization opportunities, as well as garner some venture investment. And economic growth between the anchor institutions that have really been helping to revitalize the region, there has been over 100 million and counting investments into the local greater Reading economy, especially with Alvernia moving downtown and Drexel moving to the West Reading area, has spurred a lot of this life science activity. So I want to present you with a case study of an actual startup that many of us have been working with. And that startup is Catapollo VR, which many of you may have heard of. So Dr. Corinne McLean, who is a local mental health care provider, is the CEO of this amazing company that we've had the privilege of working with. And it is a company that is revolutionizing mental health, utilizing VR, virtual reality technology, to provide better, safer, more effective mental health treatment. So we all know that mental health crisis is at its worst in the United States. This is a way to help to expand services. What's really interesting about the technology is that while people suffering from different mental health conditions. Let's use autism for an example. So people with autism may not feel comfortable, let's say, using knives in a kitchen. They're able to do this safely in virtual reality settings, and the healthcare provider on the other end is actually able to get that real-time user feedback to be able to progress that patient through different settings. And it's actually translating to the real world. So some key partners for Cat Apollo. Ben Franklin Technology Partners has provided them with essential early stage capital and has helped with making some invaluable connections. Corinne was also able to present at one of their most notable events, Venture Idol, as was a finalist in that competition and got to present in front of hundreds of people, investors, you name it. So it's great exposure for that company. Corinne is also an incubator tenant at the Opaque Institute, so physically resides in our office. We've been able to provide her with student-powered technical assistance, whether it's business planning support, financials, pitch deck. We've helped her for venture investment preparation, offered other research and development resources, and even micro grants. The Berks Launchbox also has been instrumental for Corinne in her inception with helping with her business plan. She was actually the 2022 winner of that event, and they were very important in helping to launch those initial prototypes, testing, customer validation, and she even got to present at their Penn State Venture and IP conference. The list goes on. TechBridge is an organization out of Northeast Pennsylvania who has actually joined us because they're so attracted to what we are doing here in Berks County. Corinne was able to enter their business plan competition and was the finalist last year and has had intern connections from that area to help her grow her business in a cost-effective manner. Penn State Health also is piloting the technology in multiple different ways. They're using the technology in their downtown clinic with patients, with the resident physicians in different wellness initiatives, and with the nursing students in burnout prevention. So there's many different ways to use this technology, and we're capitalizing on it right here in Berks. And then other invaluable connections, such as with different school systems, IUs, mental health care partners, different rehabilitation facilities, nonprofits. So as you can see, this ecosystem is essential in helping startups to grow. And Corinne, I don't have the people up on my screen, but if you are on the call, if you wanted to just make a comment on how the Berks Biomedical Innovation Collaborative has been able to help you.
Yeah, I don't see that she's on the call.
That's okay, no worries. We'll move on. So actually, before we move on to future directions, I did want to ask, we have two of our other partners that I saw jump on today. We have Ben Franklin Technology Partners, and we also have Teleflex on the call today. So I would love if both of you could make some remarks on how the Berks Biomedical Innovation has been helpful to your organization. I'll stop sharing for a moment.
Sure. Jackie, should I go first?
Go ahead, and then I'll follow up.
Okay. Well, it's been a great partner for Ben Franklin, as this really came to be as I actually took on the role for regional manager for what I'm doing at Reading and Berks County. So it was really imperative to me personally to get connected so quickly with all the groups that you were bringing together, and just meeting some of the new companies and getting to know all these different partners and seeing it grow and helping us to grow with all that we'd like to accomplish in the region as well. So it's been great, and to be able to turn our client companies like a Cat Apollo, we kind of like rotate them around to wherever their needs are, and to have this as one of those areas is extremely helpful. So it's been great. We're happy to continue and happy to see it growing.
Thank you.
Sounds good, Kim. Yeah, so I'm Jackie Hollenbach. I am the leader of our research and development organization here in Berks County in Wyomissing for Teleflex. Teleflex is a global medical device manufacturer. And I'm excited to be a founding member of the collaborative with Caitlin. We've had many strategic conversations here because I really see it as being valuable on many levels. You know, from the standpoint of the work that we're doing in the research and development group, we're really looking at where can we innovate next to provide tools to help improve healthcare. And so the relationships that we've built through the network, through the Innovation Collaborative with the hospital systems, with other partners, has really accelerated those activities personally for my team. In addition to that, I see this as the beginning of building an ecosystem so I can continue to draw talent to the area. We don't have a large amount of biomedical companies here, but the ones that are here are really doing great work. And we need to really get the word out about that so that we can build that talent base and that industry here in the area. So I think it's a valuable collaboration, and excited to continue on and see our successes going forward.
Thank you both so much. All right, so I'm going to share again and hand this over to my colleague, Rodney. Give me one moment. All right, Rodney, take it away.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody. And thanks, Caitlin, for putting this all together. And again, a big thank you and a shout out to all the partners who've been around. For me, this is a really exciting day to have us to finally get a chance to officially launch this thing. It's funny, Caitlin brought it up, but this was born out of COVID. My buddy George Tigos, who was what helped to start this thing, that gave me a call one day and asked me, you know, could we provide some assistance with him getting some of the physicians that were coming up with these innovative things to get through COVID? Could we actually, you know, sort of launch them and make them real products on the market? And we had a tech transfer office, one of the only ones in Berks County that was open to other people to be able to use it. And, you know, as we do, sure, let's try this thing. And so it's sort of 4 years later, and as you saw with one, Cat Apollo is a good example of how that is now actually fully functional, fully operational for a number of startups. And as a group, we're really excited about it. I think the only thing that we don't have is if you are one of these startups, and Cat Apollo sort of gets a benefit because we can house them in our facility, but there's a number of them and they have no home as of right now. So they sort of exist in garages and labs or wherever they are apart from one another. And our good friends at Ben Franklin have shown through what is now on the screen on your right, their world-class wet lab incubator, which houses a lot of biomedical activity in it, is known as Tech Ventures, is a place that we sort of now dream to have for these companies that we are incubating and want to get out. Jackie mentioned that there is not a significant amount of startup companies here in Berks County, but the ones we have are really good. And we want to change that narrative saying that there's not a lot, because she's correct, but we need to change that. So how do we change it? And we looked at what Ben Franklin is doing down in the Bethlehem or the Lehigh Valley area. And as I said, the track record that they have after 30 years of doing it is just phenomenal. The number of companies and the kinds of companies that have come out of their activity is just world class. And so after collaboration and some conversations with them and with others, we're sort of dreaming of creating our own sort of version of that here in Reading. Now, it is still a dream, so there's no plans to launch tomorrow. But I think what's exciting to me is that we're starting to get a little traction on this thing. So what you see on the screen on the left side is what we dream to be the home, our version of what would be Tech Ventures here in Reading. And it is the old Penn Optical building down on A Street near the railroad tracks where the rail station would end down near Saucony Creek. It's a 90,000 square foot facility that has long since been out of use. And we want to transform that sort of blighted property into something that would be a significant economic engine for the region, which really complements what BIC was started to do, which to be a biomedical economic driver for the region. Now, I've had some sort of preliminary conversations with a number of key individuals. I don't know if GRCA being one of them. Deb Millman and I had some conversations with Jeremy Zaborowski from the IDA and Mayor Moran and his team. And now we're actually having some interesting conversations with DCED. The Secretary Rick Seiger was here, was very interested in the project, and now has dispatched his team to again come back and say, let's take a look at this. How do we get something like this going? And so we took a group down to see and tour the real thing. We went down to see the real Tech Ventures a few weeks ago, and our friends at Muhlenberg Green Architects have agreed to sort of give us some of those vision boards to help everybody to see what this might be able to look like. And we're working with others to put together some preliminary plans and some preliminary cost and things around what would a project like this look like and how could it impact and benefit our region. And I think what we're starting to see is that this could be a significant game changer. And the reason it will, in my opinion, have real legs is that this biomedical collaborative is an anchor organization that could help drive the creation of new life science opportunities, life science ventures. And so we're really looking forward to this. What I'll say is stay tuned. We should have some interesting vision boards and some, what could this look like? What would this dream look like? How much would it cost? And the favorite question that everybody loves to ask me, who would own this building? What I will tell you is I don't know at the moment who will actually be the sort of lead organization to own it. All I do know is that Angelo Valletta, the CEO of Ben Franklin, has made it clear to me more than once that Ben Franklin will not own the building. They're happy to share their wisdom and their expertise in how to create very, very good startups and startups that grow into anchor institutions in the region. They just don't want to have to fix the pipes if they burst at 2 o'clock in the morning. They don't. But Angelo doesn't want that call. He wants somebody else to get that call. So I've heard him, and so we're working on what would that look like and who would be involved. And so there's a lot of excitement around this, and I think if we can get it done, would change the county significantly for a long, long time. And you had another slide there, Caitlin, that kind of showed.
Yeah, I just exactly. I wanted to show geographically where that would be. So the Alvernia College Town location, the John R. Post Center is over here. You see Rack, the river. So just to orient you. So what's really interesting about this, right by the train, which as we know, we're working on getting that Reading Railroad back. So why this would be so critical is that if we had that biomedical incubator here in downtown Reading, that would have a direct pipeline to the amazing research and development activity happening in Philly. And more importantly, attracting them back to this area. So that's another reason why we are looking at that location.
So just in terms of the location right now, the redevelopment authority actually owns the building. They're working in collaboration with GRCA, the Greater Berks Redevelopment Fund out of GRCA, and then the Industrial Development Authority to do remediation of the building and to get it sort of ready to be transformed. And it's not just a 90,000 square foot building, it's actually an entire block, city block that's over there that would be a part of this whole transformation. And while we are not sure about whether or not we are going to get it, this could also have some implications if we were able to get what people are talking about, which is a CRIZ. I know Representative Manny Guzman and Eddie Moran and others are working on us trying to get that designation. And so this could also potentially be supported by something like that. So there's a lot of exciting things that are happening here in the region, and this would be just a critical part of that.
Thank you so much. So the next topic that we wanted to hit on was that we want to do a showcase, and what better way to do that than to throw a one-day conference. So we're looking at doing the Berks Biomedical Innovation Collaborative Summit, which is reserved for January 17th, 2025 at the DoubleTree. This is in partnership with TechBridge, who does a similar conference in the Wilkes-Barre region every year in August. They've offered their resources to be able to help us learn how to plan this type of event and really, again, showcase regional pride, showcase all of the innovative things happening right here in our backyard. There'll be opportunity for panels, keynotes, of course, networking, and also students to participate as well as residents, medical students, et cetera, with research and poster presentation. So please save the date for that opportunity. And if you'd like to become a speaker at that, definitely let us know. We're recruiting actively.
Hey, Caitlin, if you don't mind, just so people understand the point of the innovation conference, that's a conference that I was fortunate enough to work with the executive director of TechBridge back in Wilkes-Barre to start that conference. It's probably a number 6 in conference coming up for the Wilkes-Barre region. But the sole purpose of this kind of event is really about regional pride. And even in Wilkes-Barre, we had a problem of there were so many great things happening, but nobody sort of didn't internally to the region didn't know what was happening. And I find it funny. I drive around Berks County all the time, and there's some wonderful buildings, but who knows what's happening inside those buildings? There's all kinds of, and Jackie mentioned it, there's all kinds of great things happening here in Berks County, but how many of us on this call even know what happens behind those doors? And the conference was designed to give people in the region a chance to get to know what's happening in your own backyard and have some regional pride around it. And to begin to collaborate, because who knows, the solution to your problem might be in the building right next door. You just don't know what's happening. And so we created this forum for that to happen. We're on number 6, and the impact of that conference in the Wilkes-Barre region has been tremendous. And we think that bringing a similar concept here to Berks County would be a benefit to everybody here. And so we're hoping everybody here on the call and who listens to this would be willing to join us and be willing to share what you do. Now, one of the things that we focus on, though, is we want not just the everyday thing, but we want to know what is innovative, what is transformational, what is something that we could rally around to have real distinctive pride about for the region as it relates to biomedicine and maybe even in the future other topics. So it's an exciting opportunity for us here in the region.
Thank you, Rodney. So this is where we are. This is where we see ourselves going. So we are a legitimate organization. We were able to sign our charter this quarter, so we're really excited about that. We were able to work collaboratively on different health equity topics. We have a website that just launched, so I'll give you that link at the end, and maybe Dave will send that out as well. And then, of course, today we are considering this our virtual ribbon cutting, so thanks for having us. We talked about the summit and the bioaccelerator kind of in line with the Reading Railroad plans. But of course, over this whole period of time, we're looking at strategic planning and ongoing metrics and different funding opportunities together. So really exciting times. So this is our contact information. I will kick it back to Dave to field any questions that you guys may have, but thanks again for having us and listening today.
Caitlin, thank you. And Rodney, thank you. It's fascinating stuff. I see a good friend who stole your name, Rodney, down in the corner here.
Yeah, Michelle.
Michelle Conway. A number of things come to mind. The importance of collaboration. You talked about that, but could you talk a little bit more about how that works? I mean, it's not a case of this is Alvernia owns this. It really is a case of trying to engage and empower the entire community in this project. And I think that's important to talk about.
Yeah, so
Sure.
I guess
Go ahead.
I guess I'll start. This is definitely not an Alvernia owned thing. This is really more of a regional collaboration. I think there were George. It started with Alvernia and Tower in the initial conversation, but it's quickly grown to be much more than that. And more importantly, many of the major anchor institutions that are here in the region are significant players in this. And the reason it took off, I think the way it is done is we sort of paired it after you there, Dave, and what Berks Alliance does in terms of, I know GRCA sort of owns the Berks Alliance, but it's definitely something that's an independent entity that sort of functions on its own. And so we sort of borrowed that model and that concept. And so our Dave is now Caitlin, who's running things and keeping things going. So yeah, this is not Alvernia is a part of it, but it's not an Alvernia centric thing.
And I think for me, all of the people showing up to these meetings time after time, you can just feel the passion in the room. They all care about Berks County. They all care about making a difference in patients' lives and bettering healthcare. So I think that's, at the end of the day, that's really the motivating and uniting factor. So it doesn't matter what your title is or what institution you're from. We all kind of have that common goal. So it's a lot easier to work together.
You know, it's interesting that the focus is biomedical, because I think if you would have stepped back 10 years ago and asked people, is Berks County a biomedical center or location that's going to be a hotbed of this sort of stuff, I think they probably would have not thought so. But Jackie's here. Teleflex is a significant player in medical research, biomedical innovation. We've got 5 colleges, 2 major health systems, and a medical school now in the area. That the potential, the seeds are there for this. So it's really intriguing that you pick this topic, this area. And I guess, Rodney, as you said, COVID sort of inspired the planting of the seeds, but maybe talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah, that's an interesting comment there, Dave. I think it is the investment. Two things that make the region special, and I noticed this coming into the region in 2020. One, you already have Penn State St. Joe's Health has a major medical facility that is creating new doctors. Now Drexel School of Medicine, again, another anchor institution creating doctors. So you have two major institutions in a small region that can create physicians. Alvernia and some of the other higher education institutions have very, very strong health science programs, healthcare programs. I know our occupational therapy and our nursing programs and the like. And we just put close to, thanks to some investments and partnerships, we put in close to $20 million in nursing and our health science activity down in the downtown in our on our 401 Penn Street building. And now we're working with Berks Community Health Program to launch a program there. You look at the Drexel School of Medicine's building, that's a major facility and beautiful. Big investment. I think they spent $80 million growing that. Teleflex and Adhesion and what they do in those spaces. The amount of investment in a short period of time in just the health sciences in this region is a real spark that, if intentionally seized upon, could turn this region into a real economic driver. And the other thing that we have that we cannot forget is proximity. Within close distance around us, not too far away is major pharmaceutical houses, and Philadelphia region has a strong biomedical uh, activity. So I think, and so does the Lehigh Valley has some interesting activity there. So the proximity and what's happening with power and all that kind of good stuff, that has the seeds, Dave, that really start things like turning a region around. So I think we have the intentionality that's required to begin to look at that. And hopefully, some of our funding organizations like DC and others will see that and help us to make some further investments to really make this go.
You said one of the 3 areas of focus, Caitlin, was incubation, and you mentioned Catapalo. Can you give us the names of some of the other companies that you helped get their feet on the ground?
Sure, I'd love to. So one that comes to mind was Goniotape. That was a group of occupational therapy students who were able to come together to create a smart sensor tape that helps to give some biofeedback metrics for people who are going through rehab, let's say after a hip or knee replacement. They can get those real-time analytics. That was one of them. Rhino Rye was another company that we have helped that had created, this was a COVID one, that had created basically a plastic blanket type of cover that could be used in the operating room or anesthesia, or when someone was undergoing intubation, which is the procedure that you get a breathing tube and get placed on a ventilator. So that was another one that I can think of coming out of COVID, and certainly can get you some more of a list of the companies we've been able to help.
And they've been growing or staying in the area, and they're growing in the area?
Some of them have, yes. Others, my Goniotape team lives more so near the Philly area. However, we're still in touch with them and able to provide those technical services that they need as a startup. So we're hoping one day when they're famous, they can come back and help the collaborative.
Yeah, that's something you mentioned before, Dave, when we were talking earlier, that, and the people should know, is that biomedical related startups have a much longer and much tougher incubation period than normal startups because of the regulatory environment and some of the other things that are required to get those things truly on the market and truly operational. Makes you have to have a little bit more patience, a little bit play the long game when it comes to those things. But once they do hit, they tend to hit much bigger and be much stronger anchor institutions in a region. So it's really early in the life cycle of the companies that we have started to invest in. It's really, really in their infancy. So too early to tell if they'll make it, but
No,
we have the intention of continuing to help them to try to get there.
it's seeds being planted. You're right. One of the things that I think is important that you're doing is the idea of the incubator, the lab space. I know the stuff that the Berks Alliance and the people involved with the Elevate Berks group have been talking about is the need for maker space and laboratory space, that there needs to be places for these businesses to really launch and start and grow. So talk a little bit more, Rodney, if you can, about that facility and what your ambitions are for it.
Yeah, thanks for the question. As I said, we take our inspiration from the incubator, the tech ventures in Bethlehem. But one of the good things about having something to sort of pattern yourself after is you can learn from their mistakes and do things in a way that are sort of different than maybe the way they would do it. And I think we spent a good morning, a day and a half, a day or so, half a day there with a team that was interested in doing this and looking at what they do and what might be possible and beneficial here in the Berks County region, and what will we do differently. And I think part of what you just said there, Dave, is something that we learned from them is, one, more space that's sort of that light manufacturing lab space, more spaces that are less office space and more lab space for startups. The sizes might be a little bit different than what was done when Ben Franklin did theirs. That might be a little bit different. I think we're working with our friends at Muhlenberg Green. They were there with us to sort of give us that, sort of architectural first rendering to say, imagine what this could look like. And we also have been talking to some of the startups, some of the venture people. And I think co-working space and some other spaces is definitely in the plans and sort of in our thinking. But as I said, it's kind of early for us in terms of what it'll definitely be. And funding also dictates that, right? Because things sort of get value engineered a lot, right?
Yeah.
So you could dream all you want, but the money makes it real. And we also are talking to our our municipal leaders, our legislative and municipal leaders about what they want to do, because I want it to be very clear that things like tech ventures and these business incubators don't make money. They don't. They actually generally just break even. They or slightly lose a little bit. So they need help in remaining functional and viable from an operating standpoint. The reason why you make that sort of investment is the companies that they spend out and that they create do make money, and they do transform regions, and they do have significant impact on employment and on really transforming a region. So while they themselves won't be big money makers, they make money makers. And so you sort of want to do that. So we are hoping that our friends in in local, state, and federal government will help us to create this sort of thing. Because I know Angelo gets on me all the time that, even the one Tech Ventures, which is a world-class, world-renowned, they win awards every year, both nationally and internationally, for what they do in business incubation. Their facility, it isn't some big money maker. It just doesn't, because you're dealing with these startup companies who don't have large bank accounts
Right.
at the moment. Right? They're early stage. So it's an investment for a region, and it's an anchor thing for a region that we think we need some consensus on to have it. But if we have it, it will be a great thing to have.
Yeah, you're right. It's planting seeds and hoping they grow, and then you have a forest at some point.
Yeah.
That building is a little bit of a challenge, though. And how long do you think it's going to take to pull the finances together and to get the building?
So where we at right now with our activity is while Muhlenberg Green is doing the sort of vision boards, we're working internally and with the IDA and with GRCA, Deb Millman's group, to start to look at what would the cost of this be, what would the timing on this be, the remediation. The one thing I will say about that particular building is it was built as either a bomb shelter or a fallout shelter, so that building is not going anywhere. And it was actually built in a unique way. It was built in phases. If you ever walk through the building, and the magic that what Ben Franklin had done with theirs is they built their Tech Ventures that's down there in Bethlehem in about 4 phases of about 30,000 square feet each phase. So they would build 30,000 square feet, fill it up, let that drive the need for 30,000 more. And we have the same kind of sort of vision in mind to say, there's 90,000 square foot building. You would do the core and shell first, and the first 30,000 square feet, let it fill up, and then, build 30,000 more there. And it's sort of cut up in a way where 30,000 square foot sections make sense to sort of bring online. So not sure what it will cost. I'm quite sure we're in the $30 to $50 million range in terms of doing these things. It's always $30 to $50 million. So that's an easy bet to say. But people smarter than myself, when it comes to these things, all jumping in to sort of give us some guidance and some help, and happy to come back and give you information as we garner that. I think we're a couple of months away from getting some preliminary sort of look at that sort of thing, and that will drive also who ends up owning this thing, who's the owner. So,
Yeah, yeah.
so,
Caitlin, you mentioned the three objectives of the collaborative, and one of those was health equity. Can you talk a little bit more about what that means and how that fits into what you're trying to do?
Sure, I would love to. So we want to make sure that the innovations that we are working on are not leaving out any marginalized population. As you know, the city of Reading has now over 70, maybe closer to 75% of a Latino population. So one of the initiatives that we were able to do is connect a clinical research trial organization with the Berks Community Health Center to see if we can do more clinical trials around the Latino population. Many of the, landmark research trials out there today on drugs that many people take don't necessarily capture the entire population. So that's something that we are, as a region, are looking to combat, and we thought that would be a perfect partnership. Another example of something that we worked on together with Health Equity was we met with Bebron, who's one of the leading manufacturers of IV supplies. And one of the problems that they mentioned is that people of color have a market increase in difficult IV sticks. So they're more likely to get poked many times, and that delays care, especially when it comes to an infection. It delays antibiotics, fluids, etc. So talking with one of their vice presidents around this problem, it's been around for so many years. Is there something that we could wrap our arms around to look at this a little bit closer as a region? So we threw it to our engineering students. We said, hey, we got a problem here. Let's look at that. And they were able to work with our nursing department and local nurses in the community to see if we could start creating some devices or improving upon the devices that are out there. So again, just the infancy, but again, it's movement and it's forward progress. It's different groups working together. So those are two examples that we're doing right now around health equity.
That's interesting stuff, and it's a different way of focusing on the inequities that happen in healthcare by looking at resources that people need or need to make use of, and making sure that they're reasonable, fairly distributed, and equitable. So it's an interesting concept to add to this initiative. So Caitlin, how are you going to know 2 years from now that you've been successful?
Yeah, so as Rodney mentioned, it may not be in the form of monetary success, right? But I think there's other metrics when we look on the return on investment. If we have that entrepreneurial success, we are generating more intellectual property. There's increased chance for research publications together, more company attraction, job creation, grant funding opportunities. And with the increased collaboration, I think we're going to see more and more notoriety. I think more awareness that, hey, this exists. This is step one here today. But yeah, those are some of the metrics that myself and I know the group are looking at to look for a real success here.
Have there been any conversations with the people in the county and the region that deal with workforce development about the workforce that's needed for the biomedical industry and who's producing it and how we're attracting them?
yeah, I actually had a very good conversation with Commissioner Rivera and Pam Shupp in the county. We've also been talking to Mayor Moran and his team about the impacts of these sorts of things. And there's lots of interest in how this would go and be very helpful. We're also trying to establish partnerships with more of the workforce development types of organizations. So your Tech Centro and others, the CTCs, and others that might be able to, again, begin to develop more opportunities at all levels of the workforce for people in biomedicine, and how that might be spearheaded by an organization like this, so that you can create pathways even from right out of high school for people. So there are discussions that are happening, but a group like this, and with Caitlin coming on board, some of the people that we have in our group, it is our intention to have more conversations around those and not just conversations, but more activities and more successes. And that, Dave, could be one of the metrics you look at to say, well, how do you know you're successful? When you're graduating more people that are jumping in, staying in the region. So you're keeping more of the your local talent here around this sort of thing. That's an easy way to measure that.
But Rodney, as you said, we're early on in a process that takes some time to develop. So it's interesting to see the seeds that are being planted, and hopefully they nurture and grow. Caitlin, talk a little bit more, if you can, about what your expectations are for the summit, what you'd like to see happen.
Sure. So again, as Rodney had mentioned, it's going to be more of a showcase. We want to celebrate all the great activity happening around the life sciences here in Berks County. So what we would expect in a one-day conference would be to kick it off with a keynote speaker, have some very invigorating breakout sessions that are relevant and again, showcasing new, innovative, cutting edge and transformative technologies or other approaches. And then we would have those poster presentations as well to make sure that we're showcasing different research in the region. So we think it's going to be a mix of those types of activities for the day.
And who are you looking to come to the event?
Sure. So definitely the people on this call. So the anchor institutions, we hope that they are sending their people. So higher ed, healthcare industry partners, consultants, investors, the same type of people that we're trying to attract, people involved with economic and community development. So it's not necessarily pigeonholed to just biomedical employees. It is going to have that more regional flavor to it.
Okay. Well, I've sort of dominated the conversation here, and I apologize for that. But are there anybody have any questions in the audience or comments in the audience? I may go back and call on Kim to talk a little bit more if she's still with us. Jackie, you want to say a little bit more?
I can say that, from my personal experience, I've definitely built some closer relationships with some of the healthcare institutions within the area, which has turned out to be really valuable from informing my engineering team on, really what are the clinical issues that we're seeing today? What are the aspects of improvements, that would be seen and deemed as most valuable, and what is the current population struggling with? So again, I think it just helps the whole ecosystem move forward. It may be hard to designate one sole owner, of a lot of these activities, but the relationships you build, the conversations that you have, and just the diverse opinions and perspectives coming together, I think is super valuable in coming out with something new and moving forward.
Yeah, power of collaboration is so significant, so important. Kim, do you have anything you want to say? You're muted.
Sorry, I had to take a quick call. So what was the question? I hate to ask.
And I'm feeling like I'm a college professor here calling on people in the room. Laura, you don't get off the hook.
Yeah, I guess the thing that I would add to the conversation is that I am not a Berks County native. I grew up in Baltimore. I came to Berks County because of the work. The work that brought me to Berks County was biomedical related. I've worked for medical device, I've worked for pharma, I've worked for biotech, and all of that is in the area. So I think that when I hear, it's not well understood that those type of activities are going on in the area. I'm very excited to be a part of the collaborative, and I'm very excited about the opportunities it's bringing to the area, because I've seen a lot of my peers go down the 422 corridor to get work. And I think they prefer to live in Berks County, but they need that work to keep them here. And I'm very excited between the train and these types of initiatives that we can reverse that flow up the 422 corridor back into this area.
Yeah, thank you for doing that. I've been wanting to mention that the train station stuff is moving along very well, and it's going to coincide, I think, Rodney, with you getting the Penn Optical building up and running. There's also a couple groups working in the south of Penn district, which is part of where that's located. That could be very significant. The city is in the program of the Lincoln Land Institute called Legacy Cities, that it's focusing on that area, and the south of Penn group is trying to rehab that area. So this could be a game changer, not just for biomedicine and biomedical, but it could be a game changer for that part of the city of Reading, which needs help.
Yeah, it's exciting to see, Dave, that a lot of other things are simultaneously happening. The Goggle Works Neighborhood Task Force is happening down in that region as well, getting close to that. You have the kinds of things that Adele Shade and her group were talking about doing. I see Joe Mahoney on the call, and we're getting ready to launch our biomedical engineering program here soon, and our graduate programs in engineering that will bolster things, be a help to things like this, because we work collaboratively with industry. There's a number of institutions that are starting to so all work around this. So it's sort of like a perfect storm happening all at once, that will hopefully help to really solidify the fire that has been started here, and make it really grow and transform the region into something where people are taking the train into town and not out of town.
Yeah, exactly. Caitlin, one last chance for you to say something.
Sure. I just wanted to thank you, Dave, you and the Berks Alliance, and everyone on the call today for having us. And again, this is just the beginning. This is our virtual ribbon cutting. So we're just getting started, and we've already had a lot of momentum. So stay tuned. Definitely, when there's opportunities to engage, please do. The more the merrier. So thanks, everybody.
And thank you, guys. Very, very good presentation. We will be sending a copy of the video to everybody who registered. We will also send your PowerPoint out to everybody who registered for the program. Thank you very much for not just this presentation, but for the work that you're doing in our community. It's really significant, very, very important. I hope you will join us again for some of our upcoming programs. We're going to be doing one next week on hydrogen hubs. Pennsylvania is going to be the home of 2 of those. It's going to be a very significant game changer for Pennsylvania and the greening of Pennsylvania. And I'm going to take one last chance and I'm say goodbye to my good friend Michelle as she moves on.
Great to see you. I logged on with Rodney's link, so that's why there were 2 of us on the call, but it's so great to see you.
Good luck in your new career.
Oh, thanks so much, Dave.
And thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Bye.